ma'rifah of Him, gain an understanding of Him. In Hadith Qudsi, he says, كنت كنزا مخفيا فأحببت أن أعرف فخلقت الخلق لكي أعرف. I was a hidden treasure and I loved to be known. فخلقت الخلق لكي أعرف. And so I initiated creation so that mankind could come to know me. The ultimate aim of every single individual is that they come to an understanding, a ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desired for us. When He says, "Kuntu kanzan makhfiya," it is because He was a hidden treasure that was able to and wanted to bestow His mercy and His blessings upon a creature, upon an entity. And through bestowing His mercy upon them, by them coming to an understanding of Him, they too were able to reach a state of kamal, a state of perfection, where then He Himself says in Hadith Qudsi, "Son of Adam, you come close enough to me and I will give you the power to say kun fayakun. I will give you the power to create. I will give you the power to say to something be and it will become." And some say that, oh, what is this? Is this some sort of Sufi thing? Is this some shirk that is being brought in here? No, this is not. You see, there is a difference between khalq and ibda'. You see, khalq is when you create something that you create from that which has already been created. What Hazrat Isa did, he would take earth, he would mold it, he would blow life into it, bi'idhnillah, and it would come alive. This is khalq. Ibda' is something that is reserved specifically for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibda' is the ability to create out of nothing. There was nothing, and He created earth. Then He did khalq upon the earth and created Adam. But the initial creation of that clay comes from ibda'. Out of nothing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that entity that is giving us that power to be able to create, to be able to reach such proximity towards Him that now He says, "Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan maradiyya." At the higher levels of our ubudiyyah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find that as an individual gets closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the more he falls in love with Allah, and the more he dedicates his life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the highest realm says to him, "Come back to your Lord, but don't come back in any other state. Return to your Lord in the state that you understand that your Lord is happy with you, but He wants you to be happy with Him. Radiyatan maradiyya. Only return back to your Lord if you are happy with His Lordship." This is the absolute mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when an individual reaches those spiritual highs, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say return. He says only return if you are satisfied with me being your Lord. But in order to reach that height, in order to reach that maqam, to reach that status, that level, an individual has to totally annihilate themselves in the will of their Lord, in total submission to their Lord. Coasting by is not an option. It requires total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we fully submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our very wujud submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we're able to unlock those secrets where in regards to fasting, he says that, and I'm sure I said it on the first or second night, but when I was discussing with someone, they said, no, you didn't say it. So I'm referring to the higher authority that they probably remembered what I said, because many times I don't remember what I said. But in the hope that they remember better than me, there is a narration that says that fasting is for me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. He says, Siyam is for me, and I am its reward. The ibadat that we are conducting throughout this month, it is not any ordinary worship. We think of it as this burden, this annoyance to our existence, this annoyance to our timetable, it messes up my body clock, it ruins the way I usually run my life, and all these things in my life have to be put on hold because it's Shahr Ramadan. But in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, no, this is the only ibadah that is for me. And if you do it sincerely, then you will gain me. And I am its reward. This is that opportunity that we have, that many a times we tend to throw away. Many a times we don't even consider what we have. I suppose that is the nature of man, that we don't appreciate those things that we have until they're gone. We reach the end of Shahr Ramadan, and then we think, I wish, I'd done more. We don't appreciate those things until they're truly gone, like our parents. We don't appreciate our parents truly until they're gone. Ask those that have lost their parents. The regrets, the desire to have done more for their parents. Especially the mother. See, when you look at the narrations in regards to the mother, or you pick up Risalatul Huquq of Imam al-Sajjad, he says that you should know that the right of your mother is that you should acknowledge أنها حملتك حيث لا يحمل أحدا أحدا وأطعمتك من ثمرة قلبها لا يطعم أحدا أحدا, that she carried you in a place that no one carries anyone, and she fed you from the fruit of her heart, a food that no one feeds anyone, and she bore the difficulties of this world. She defended you with her skin, with her bones, with her hair, and with her very existence, until the hand of God expelled you upon the earth. Then when you came upon the earth, she covered you from the shade. The Imam says that she would sit in the sun so long as you could sit in the shade. She would remain thirsty as long as you had something to drink. She would remain unclothed as long as you were clothed. She would sit in difficulty as long as you were in ease. She would stay awake as long as you got to sleep. It says her very existence, her lap was your throne, her bosom was your drink. This mother who spent her whole existence defending me, taking care of me, keeping me in a place where no one keeps anyone. The Imam is saying that her right is that you acknowledge she did every single one of these things for you. She did every single one of these things for you, and ask Allah to give you the opportunity to thank her to its equivalent. And then the Imam says, but you will not be able to thank her to its equivalent except with the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is that mother who, as we get older, her words of wisdom become the rantings of an old woman. This is that mother who differentiates or helps an individual, even though she may be kafir, become Awais al-Qarni. Awais' mother is kafir. She does not want him to go and see the Holy Prophet. So he doesn't. Until one day she's a bit better and she says, okay, go and see your Muhammad. Go and see him. But don't stay for long, come back, because I don't know how well I'll be. He goes to Medina. He knocks at the door of the Prophet. They tell him the Prophet has gone out on on the battlefront and is not in Medina. He doesn't wait or doesn't eat anything, doesn't do anything. He sits back on his camel and rides straight back to Yemen towards his mother. The Holy Prophet returns. He says, I smell the sweet scent of Jannah. Was Awais here? So yes, Awais finally came in and he returned. And he never saw the Holy Prophet. But yet the narrations say that he will be from amongst the first to enter into heaven. Not for anything else except the respect of his mother. And the father, exactly the same. Imam al-Sajjad in regards to the father, he says that you should know that the right of your father is that he is your asl. You should understand that he is your root. And everything good that you see within yourself that pleases you, know that it has come from your father. Everything that you see that is good and it pleases you within you, a personality trait, and the way that you interact with people, if it pleases you, then thank Allah for the father that He gave you, because you got that trait from your father. The mother and the father, their position is so high that even when they're in this world, they disown you. We know all the narrations. They disown you. There is no rahmah. But did you know that they can disown you once they've died as well? Not just in this world. No. There will be certain individuals who on the day of Qiyamah will be considered aqi walidain. They will be considered distant from Allah. They will be distanced and disowned by their parents, such that the one that is aqi walidain will not be able to smell the scent of Jannah, according to narrations, which travels 70 years. They won't be able to smell it. That's how far from Jannah they will be if their parents disown them. The narrations state that there are certain individuals whose parents leave this world and they are happy with them. But then some time elapses and from the grave they pray to Allah and they disown their children. They're asked why? Because their children were good to them in this world while they were alive. But the moment they placed their parents in the earth and buried them, they forgot all about them. They forgot about reciting Fatiha. They forgot about giving sadaqah. They forgot about doing khairat, good things on their behalf. And so the parents from the grave pray that, oh Allah, this son of mine or this daughter of mine that has forgotten me, my Lord, I disown them. And there are certain individuals whose parents leave this world having disowned them and being angry with them, and they leave this world. But from the grave they decide that they want to take this child back, because this child, despite being disowned, despite being in a state that he had fallen out or she had fallen out with his or her parents, has decided to pray for them, give sadaqah on their behalf, recite Fatiha for them, recite Surah Yasin for them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again brings that individual into His fold. They say there are individuals within this world who they can't figure out why that they had so much barakah when their parents were around, but now that their parents are gone, the barakah has decreased. The narration states it's because they're no longer praying for their parents once they place them in the grave. So the parents have disowned them. The barakah is taken away from their rizq. The status of the parents. When someone's parents die, yes, the pain is for the separation, but what we should be crying about the most is that one of the pathways to Allah has been closed for us. One of the pathways for dua to be accepted has been closed for us. The importance of the parents. That even from the grave they can disown or own a child. They have that ability, they have been bestowed with that grace by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if they left this world as non-Muslims, even if they left this world as disbelievers, if their children do not honor them, then they themselves from the grave will disown their children, such that that individual will find it very hard to find a place within the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certain things within our lives, we do not appreciate them until they have gone. Appreciate your parents while you have them. And if they have already left this world, then send khairat for them. You know, the narrations say every Thursday night, the arwah return to their homes. The spirits of your relatives, they return to your homes, begging and asking, not like sort of ghostly, ooh, no, they return to your home, begging, asking. And they see like everyone's, you know, they're worried about work and they're worried about eating and this and that, and they're not doing anything for them, and they're standing there and they're begging and they're asking, will you not do a dua for us? Will you not do anything? To the extent that some narrations say that the marhumeen, they come to the door of those that survive of them, and they say that even the piece of bread that you're throwing to the dog, give it in our name so that we may benefit from it. Even something as small as that scrap that you're throwing towards a dog to eat, give it in our name so that we may benefit from it. We're in so much need of it. I mean, there's a second point that comes off of this as well, in the sense of when I said throwing it to a dog, and everyone's like, dog? It's like something. Okay, look, we need to get something clear. Dogs are najis, yeah? Dogs are najis. And if they were to touch your clothes and the hairs on your clothes, you cannot pray. And yes, it is a very small like allowance within Sharia to keep a dog within your home. Other than that, the dogs chase away the malaika of rahmah from the house. Yes, unless it's a guard dog or it's a guide dog or something like that. And believe me, a Chihuahua is not a guard dog. That clear. So anyway, they are najis. And we accept that they are najis. But they're not bad, for God's sake. You know what, we have this concept that anything that is najis, like a dog or a pig, they must be bad. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't create anything imperfect. He doesn't create anything naqis. Everything is created in its own level of perfection. Yes, His Sharia says that it is najis, but it doesn't mean every time you see it, you take your slipper off and throw it at it and chase it away. Those that are Pakistanis will understand what I'm talking about. Yeah? And you chase it away and then you want to get it away. Because it's disgusting and dirty, and you see a snake and you've got to stab it through the head. Because it's a snake and it might... No, this is, you know, we can do dhulm on animals. There are narrations to say that animals will complain on Yawm al-Qiyamah at some point about dhulm that they had faced at the hands of people. You have ulama who would come, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Ayatollah Muqaddas Ardubili. He goes out and he buys some apples or some fruit. And he buys the apples and fruit and he brings it back home. And when he reaches home, he opens his bag and realizes that there are some ants on the fruit. So he takes the bag back, all the way back to the marketplace. The person sees him says, look, Maulana, Sayyid, whatever, the fruit was fresh, there was nothing wrong with it. Why are you bringing it back? He says, no, I don't want to, I don't want my money back or anything, but just take these 2 or 3 apples and place them back on the pile, because these ants, they've been removed from their homes. They've been removed from their homes, and I don't want to take them away from their home. So leave these apples there so that they can just return back to their homes, return back to their families. This is akhlaq. This is akhlaq. This is what we've been talking about. The same Ahmed Muqaddas Ardubili is going for Hajj. He hires a donkey to ride to Hajj. And they see him walking all the way to Hajj. What are you doing? You hire the donkey and you're not sitting on it and you walk the whole way to Hajj. He says, yes, I hired the donkey. When I hired the donkey, I said to the person hiring the donkey to me that it will be me and the clothes that are on my back. But as I was leaving, someone handed me a letter to deliver to Mecca for someone. This is additional weight that I did not make the deal for. Hence, akhlaq will not allow me to continue to ride upon this mule because this weight is excess. And we think, oh my God, it's like a couple of grams or ounces for you guys. It's a couple of ounces or something like that. Yeah, and it's like irrelevant. But yet, these are the minutiae of spiritual development. These are those small intricacies that differentiate an individual. These small, minute things. Someone gives you a pen, you borrow it, and then you stick it in your pocket and walk off. That person doesn't mind, as in they gave it to you and they said, look, you can keep it, it's not a problem. Or they just said, yeah, it doesn't matter. And you've just walked off with it. There is a problem. This is problematic. Definition of dhulm is this. Now we'll get even more akhlaqi. Definition of dhulm is that you take something from its rightful place and put it in a place that it is not supposed to be. I go to someone's house, they place their cups on the coaster, on top of the table. I go to drink a cup of tea. I pick it up and I put it bang on the table. Dhulm upon them. Because according to them, the rules dictate that it must be placed upon the table, on the coaster. I've taken it, moved it from the coaster and placed it on the table. I've committed dhulm. Someone has a pen that they keep here. I use it and I put it over there. Dhulm, oppression. And the smallest things. These are the minutiae. These are the minutiae. Do you see where we are? Where we are? We're still debating whether hijab is wajib or whether we should pray or not. Whether I'm eligible for khums or not. These are the minutiae. Where are we? Why is there this disparity between the two camps? That there is absolute perfection and a focus on these small minutiae of our development, but yet at the same time we're debating these small things. It is this that makes all the difference, these small things. And this is what we have been discussing since the 15th night or whenever I came here. These small akhlaqi traits. And yesterday we completed the 20 traits of the people of the dunya. Now I'm not going to repeat them. I want to see how many people can actually remember them. Was that just a Laylatul Qadr fluke? Because everyone seemed to pull out all 18 at that point, or 16 at that point. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the traits of the people of the dunya are? They laugh too much, yeah? They eat too much, yeah? They sleep too much? Sorry?
They get mad often.
Mad often, yeah?
They don't apologize and they don't ask for forgiveness.
Don't apologize, that's forgiveness. Someone said not satisfied over here.
Courageous in sin.
Courageous in sin. Lazy in worship.
Oh, they also
Happy at the sight of food.
Happy at the sight of food, yeah. Why? I said this yesterday. Why is it that the women are laughing at the happy at the sight of food? These guys stay really like calm and they're like, yeah, overjoyed at the sight of food. A lack fear, yes.
They don't remember death.
They have long, far-fetched hopes, yeah. They don't remember death, yes. They don't take account of themselves. You have notes. I am impressed.
Lazy in worship.
Sorry?
Lazy in worship.
They're lazy in worship. Someone already said that. They don't take account of themselves.
Not thankful.
Not thankful in ease. Not patient in difficulties. They love to boast about themselves while they do not possess anything. They like to praise themselves for things that they have not done. Yeah. They're not patient in troubles. Yeah.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. Yeah. So we took that. Yeah.
They like to lie.
They like to lie. Yes. That was one of the points as well. It came off the fact that they always took credit for things that they had not done. So alhamdulillah, you've got all of them. And then there were two additional ones that Allah said that they are filled with ignorance and they're irrational. And they do not humble themselves in front of the one that they learn from. And they consider themselves to be amongst the wise, while the wise consider them to be fools. Yeah? So that was Ahlul Dunya. Now, we want to look at Ahlul Akhirah. What is it that those are the traits that we need to remove, and we're trying to remove them straight away. I mean, we've been trying it for 15 days. I keep on meeting various brothers who say, look, I tried 6 hours, it's just impossible, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, I can't sleep for 6 hours. And I said, look, it's not going to happen overnight. You do it one night and you wake up groggy the next day. That doesn't mean that, it's going to change straight away, but it's going to take weeks. 6 hours, 6 hours. No, but I get ill. Okay, so one day sleep 6 hours, one day sleep your 20 hours that you need to sleep. And then sleep 6 hours again, and then sleep however many hours that you need to sleep. And if you're going to sleep 6 hours, then if you've got the day off school or work or whatever, find an hour or two to sleep during the day anyway. It's mustahab to have a siesta. But if you've got time, don't just go to work and fall asleep. So it's my religion says. They probably won't take that very well. So those are the tricks that we've got to take out from ourselves. Slowly but surely, but not too slowly that we lose any sort of gains that we've made in this month. Like, I'm going to reduce the amount of rice I eat by a grain at a time. Try 50%. And then, we reduce the amount we eat over a period of time. But don't do it so slow that you lose any sort of gains that you may have gained in this month. Then we have to see what we're aiming for. What are we aiming for? What is the ideal? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Holy Prophet, says, Ya Ahmad, inna ahl al-khayr wa ahl al-akhirah raqiqatun wujuhuhum kathirun haya'uhum. Says, O Ahmad, the people of good and the people of akhirah, they possess certain traits. The first of which is that they have noble faces. And the second is that they have high modesty. They are very modest. And we'll look at them both in some depth. Noble faces. When you look at narrations in regards to the mu'mineen, there are a number of things that refer to noble faces. I mean, what is a noble face anyway? Right, there is no prototype that this is a noble face and that is not a noble face. When it talks about the noble faces, or it talks about good faces, it's referring to nur upon the face of the individual. And then their faces are very happy, they're smiling, they're not just angry. We've already spoken about this, right? Some people are just angry all the time. And their faces are angry, and you just don't want to even go and talk to them because they're so angry. And maybe it might not be, no, this is my happy face, okay. maybe we can work on it. There are certain individuals whose faces are nice. You feel like approaching them because they're smiley, they're happy, and not like smiley in a weird smiley way, like smiling is they've got welcoming faces. And so when you look at other narrations, when it talks about the traits of the mu'mineen, the first thing that the Holy Prophet says, he says the mu'mineen have wajhun mumbasit. They have these smiling and affable faces. These are faces that you are attracted towards. They're smiling, they're happy, they're welcoming in the way that they meet with people. Lisanun fasihun latif, and we've already spoken about this a couple of days ago, that the second trait of the believers is that they have tongues which are eloquent and they speak good words. They speak in a nice way. They don't mumble like, remember that example. They don't mumble, they actually speak in a way that is eloquent, in a way that is understood by the people, but when they speak, they don't speak too much. But they speak with such eloquence that even a few words are enough to explain where they're coming from. The third trait, qalb al-rahim, they have merciful hearts. Their hearts are merciful, meaning that they can forgive and they can apologize. Meaning that they can feel the pain of other members of the Muslim Ummah or other human beings. They feel their pain. They're able to help others because their heart is more receptive, is merciful. They're able to shed tears easier in the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for Abu Abdullah, because their hearts have become merciful. They haven't become immune to everything that's happening around them. There are certain things that we've been speaking about that make the heart of an individual hard. The first thing being eating too much. That makes an individual's heart hard. Eating too much meat also makes it hard. Eating too much or not having enough meat, this also deviates an individual. So becoming a total vegetarian, and we spoke about the ills of vegetarianism before, and more than 40 days if you become a vegetarian, it's problematic. Someone says that that's probably my most favourite word, problematic. I didn't notice it, but now every time I say it, I'm second guessing myself and trying not to use it to prove them wrong. But eating too much vegetables, i.e. like ignoring meat totally and just becoming a vegetarian, is not allowed. And eating too much meat creates hardness of the heart. Certain professions, if you are a butcher, for example, it makes your heart hard. This is why it's makruh to be a butcher, but not haram. Yeah, because someone's got to cut the meat. So it's makruh to be a butcher, but not haram. Like soldiers and all the various things that make an individual's heart hard. And if you're constantly watching, these beheading videos and this video and that video, it eventually removes that sort of raham from a person's heart. Because you're constantly exposed to it, and it seems to be like going around, right? This Daesh video, this Daesh video. Okay, we know what is happening, but if you're constantly searching for all of this, your heart will become hardened. Why are these individuals able to commit the atrocities that they are committing? It is because their hearts are hard. Why is it that the army of Yazid were able to commit the atrocities that they committed? قَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونَكُم مِّنَ الْحَرَامِ. It is because your stomachs are filled with haram, says Imam al-Hussein to them. It's because your stomachs are filled with haram. You've taken bribes, you've given bribes, you've accepted the money of Amr ibn Sa'ad or Yazid, or you've accepted this way, you've chose to deny the Holy Prophet, all this. And then even before that, you know, you're selling knockoff goods or something like that, you know, their equivalent at that time, you know, knockoff dates or something, you know, pretending it's something. Yeah, so, or they're not weighing out the dates properly. See, all of these things, that money that you gain from it, haram. You eat it, problem within the soul. You go to work, you're paid to work 9 hours. You make sure that every hour, when someone's not looking, you've got a nice 15-minute just chill out break. Yeah? Those 15 minutes throughout the day, added for each hour, that part is haram. Because you're being paid to do a certain job. And you're not expected to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes off every hour. So those 20 or 15 minutes that you take, that money is haram. You add it up for all the 15 or 20 minutes that you're taking unnecessarily or against the rules of your company. It all adds up at the end of the month. You take your money, you go and you buy food, you consume that food, you feed your children that food. This is how you raise a nation of Kufans. This is how you raise a nation of an army of Yazid when there is not the focus on where the food is coming from, where money is coming from, what we are putting within our stomachs, how much of it we're putting in there. It seems simple, but we have to be more and more careful about the minutiae of our development. So the third trait that they possess is that they have merciful hearts. The fourth trait is yadun mu'tiyah. They have hands that bestow. Their hands are generous. They help people. They actually do something. They don't just talk the talk. They actually walk the walk. Do you remember the lecture a couple of days ago? Their hands are actually of some use to the people. They actually go and try and help someone out. They try and not just talk about it, but, you know, when someone's in some difficulty, they go and help them. Be that financial, be that, you know, giving them a lift, or be, you know, whatever, coming to hoover up the masjid. And, you know, don't consider what you do for Abu Abdullah as something insignificant. And, you know, this is a point that now that it's come up, that, or anything that you do for Ahlul Bayt, especially for the majlis of Abu Abdullah, there is a narration that says, Inna al-Husayn babun min abwab al-Jannah. That surely Hussein is the door from amongst the doors of Jannah. There are 7 doors to hell, 8 doors to Jannah. The 8th door is Bab al-Hussein. This is the door where those that came and served Abi Abdullah, those that cried for him, those that made people cry for him, those that came and prepared food for him, those that came to hoover the carpets for him, those that welcomed the mu'mineen for him, those that came and cleaned up after for him, those that did anything in a small way for Abu Abdullah, arifan bihaqqihi, knowing what he stood for, what he did, why he went to Karbala, understanding what he was trying to save us from, then they will enter from that door of Jannah.
Salawat.
We don't want a Jannah without Imam al-Hussein within it. We don't want Jannah without Ahlul Bayt in it. We only want to go into that Jannah within which Hussein dwells. We want to enter Jannah through the door of Imam al-Hussein. This is the height of love. And this is the minutiae again, even if it's from just hoovering up the carpets. Even if it's just from cooking. Even if it's just from straightening the shoes of those that come to the masjid. These are the minutiae. Do you remember the narration I gave you in the earlier majalis in regards to the 8th Imam? That his akhlaq was such that he would not lean against the wall if those that were sitting with him in a gathering did not have a wall to lean against. He would not stretch out his legs if there was someone sitting in front of him. He would always keep his legs folded. He would never speak until the person in front of him had finished speaking. None of this is haram, but it is the minutiae of our development, the small akhlaqi traits that will differentiate us from all others. The small things that don't require thanks. It's just you need to understand and acknowledge that why should I be given a wall, or why should I be able to sit on this cushion when everyone else is not able to be given this cushion. And unfortunately we seem to fall prey to it a lot more, like those lecturers or scholars or speakers, because people, again, like going back to that point yesterday, people give us so much respect. And so then, all that arrogance and that stuff builds up, and then I think, no, I am the one that needs to have a cushion to sit on. I cannot sit on the floor, or I want first class tickets to come to America, or business class, because, I'm better than economy class. See, recite salawat. Probably best I don't get started on the topic. Anyway. So, the people of the Akhirah, they have noble faces. One of the ways that the face becomes ennobled is through nur. One of the ways that nur is created upon the face of an individual is through the recitation of Salatul Layl. Salatul Layl gives a person a number of benefits, and the importance of Salatul Layl is within this, that it is the only mustahab salah that you can recite qada of. If you wake up and realize that you've missed your Salatul Layl, the next day you can recite qada of it. This is how important it is. They say, but still, you can recite its qada, but don't miss it. You can reduce those 11 raka'ah to 1 raka'ah, as I explained in the previous nights, but don't miss it. You can reduce those 300 al-afb to 1, but don't miss it. The hada maqam al-a'adhi bika min al-nar to 1, don't miss it. The astaghfirullah to 1, don't miss it. The forgiveness for the mu'mineen to 1, don't forget. In fact, you can miss all of that to recite salawat in the qunut of Salatul Fitr, but don't miss it. And if you do miss it, then the next day you can recite his qada. Importance of it is that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, may Allah have mercy on the man who wakes up in the middle of the night to pray and wakes his wife up to pray too, and sprinkles water on her face if she refuses to get up. Now, I should point out here, I think Pakistanis and Arabs, you might be able to get away with this. Iranians, I don't think you should do that. But then the narration does continue. The narration continues. And if there is a woman who, may Allah have mercy upon that woman, who wakes up in the middle of the night, who goes to pray Salatul Layl, and she goes to wake up her husband, and to wake him up, she sprinkles water in his face. If you're Pakistani, you probably don't do that to your husband. If you're Arab, if you're Iranian, you can do that to your husband. So see, we have this balance, equality. So it says, but wake up, the mercy of God be upon you. For the woman that wakes her husband up for Salatul Layl, and the man who wakes his wife up for Salatul Layl. Not thinking, oh, forget it, I'm just going to pray through my bit, I can't be dealing with this morning anger. Yeah? The result of recitation of Salatul Layl, nur upon the face is increased. The individual's nur is increased. His rizq, the barakah within his rizq is increased. He has more worth to his money. He has an increase of sustenance. He finds things are tight. He recites Salatul Layl regularly, and Allah begins to open those difficulties for him. Extends his life. Reduces bad breath. Salatul Layl. If you pray it, You got like problems with bad breath? Salat al-Layl. This is the solution. Body odor. The one who prays Salatul Layl and has some BO issues. Salatul Layl will get rid of it. See, the physical and spiritual benefits. Physical and spiritual benefits. And there are so many more that we can carry on going through, but we don't have time. Ahlul Akhirah, the first trait that they possess is that they have noble faces. The second trait that they possess, kathirun haya'uhum, they have great modesty. They are very modest in the way that they do things. Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi says, al-haya'u miftahu kulli khayr. He says that haya, modesty, is the key to all good. The same way that yesterday we said that lying is the key to all shar, to all khaba'is, to all wretchedness, to all sin. The 11th Imam says that all wretchedness, all sin, all lying is placed within a house. And the key to that house is lying. Here, the first Imam is saying that if you want to gain all khair, all good, all the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the key to it is haya, is modesty. Being modest in the way that you go forward and you approach things. Then Nabil al-Mu'mineen in another way, he says the means to chastity, towards iffat, towards chastity, to becoming chaste. He says the way towards chastity, we hear about chastity, being chaste, restraining oneself. He says the way to it is through haya, is through modesty. In the way that you approach the individual. And remember that iffa is not just in regards to an individual, their desires or their sexual desires, but in fact it is also in regards to the stomach as well. So the Holy Prophet of Islam says that two groups, or the majority of my ummah, that end up within hell will be as a result of two vessels. The first, their private parts, the second, their stomach. That they will not have any haya in regards to eating, or no self-restraint in regards to eating, or in regards to their private parts. So you find that haya leads to iffah. This haya, this is like that bashfulness within an individual. The bashfulness that is displayed by our scholars of old when they spoke to even their students, like the great Arafa, the great ulama, when they would speak to their students, you have it that their students would say that he would never look us in the eye. He'd always have his eyes down in like this modest state. He would always walk looking towards the earth. And when he'd always, he'd speak to people, but he'd speak to them in a nice, apologetic way. This is that haya, that modesty, not looking at anyone, or he wouldn't look at his students directly in the eye. Forget, members of the opposite gender. These are members of the same gender, and the haya that they would have, they would show that bashfulness, that honor, that respect for that individual. Now when it comes to, members of the opposite gender, we've got this whole new way that we're interacting with each other. It's all laughing, joking, loads of, it's okay, we'll go to school together, it's alright, we can act the same in masjid. No, it's not. It's not haya at school, it's not haya here. It's not modesty there. You remember the reference from yesterday. Oh Zayn, why did you have to put this picture of yourself up on Twitter? We're fasting, and there's this nutter with a half naked picture, and he's put it up on Twitter, and there's Muhajjaba sisters that are like, oh, why did you do this? There's no haya. See, this is where the modesty is out the window. Where brothers are going and they're starting to like photos that they shouldn't like. And then in order to make themselves feel better, they do what? MashaAllah, sister. On someone else's. Right? They double click it on Instagram or whatever you have to do on that. And you know, retweeting and tweeting that. There's no haya. There's no haya in the way that we speak with each other. We will happily swear, we will happily take the make fun of someone, because there's no haya there. We will happily interact with members of the opposite gender. There's no haya. We don't feel bad. We don't think, okay, maybe I should restrain myself in a certain way. I should restrain my speech. I should address them in an honorable way, in a respectful way. There's no haya in the way I speak to my elders. That now my elders are that I address them by their name, for example, or I address them in a rude way that I would address my fellow, those people that are at my age. Or I will, for example, an elder who slightly, does something wrong, and we'll all start laughing amongst ourselves and we'll start, showing them up. This is not modesty. This is not what Ahlul Akhirah are about. See, modesty is just far beyond that interaction as well. It's in the way that you also speak to people. It's in the way that you eat. You eat, don't eat too much. That you're like, oh God, I can't. Or that people are looking at your food and going, my God, where is he or she putting it? Impossible. How much is this person eating? No, eat in a way that it doesn't draw attention. This is haya again. It doesn't draw attention to the amount you're eating. And obviously eating too much anyway is an issue. But we sort of eat it in such a way. There's just no haya. Do you remember that example I gave of the wedding video? And you're eating at a wedding, not knowing that the cameraman's filming you. And then afterwards, you realise that the cameraman's caught you trying to pick your teeth and all sorts, because this, and just caught how many kebabs you've got on your plate, and you're like, oh my God, I wish I could die. I didn't know he was filming. Because there's no haya there. There's no, I can't control myself. There's no restraint there. No restraint in the way that I interact with members of the opposite gender. No restraint in what I put on Facebook or what photos of myself I put up. No restraint in the fact that I have no haya in front of Allah. When I stand to pray, I'm just like, Allahu Akbar, and I'm like rocking back and forth. And by the way, this movement back and forth, and it can, in many cases, it can make your namaz batil. It can invalidate your prayer, especially when you're coming up from ruku. This is the main point. Some people come up from ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamidallah, and they're moving throughout. This is an invalidator of the prayer. You must come straight up from ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allahu Akbar, then move. Not Allah, your prayer is invalid. And then some people, they're sort of like rocking back and forth, and they'll be like shifting, especially when it's coming to Salat al-Jama'ah, like this, or they'll be itching here, and then, trying to stretch their back and stuff, and God forbid Maulana chooses a long surah, and then, and so, this is, again, all of this, there is no haya in what we're doing. We're standing in front of Allah. There's no modesty. That I don't have, I'm fully in concentration, or when it comes to Shahr Ramadan, then, I'm a really good Muslim, and I'm observing all the religion, everything, but, outside of Shahr Ramadan, no one would know I was a Muslim except for my name. Because there's no haya, there's no modesty in regards to Allah. I don't consider myself insignificant. I walk around without any hijab throughout the day, but when it comes to praying, I put on a very good, nice hijab. Why? Because I'm in front of Allah. Oh, I thought God was everywhere. My bad. Yeah? Why is it that you started to pray now, or, in Shahr Ramadan, brother? Oh, because it's Shahr Ramadan, don't you know? Oh. And? Well, it's the month of God. Oh, I thought all the months were God's. God, they were all His months. No. In Shahr Ramadan, all of a sudden we start, and in reality, if you look at it properly, this is kufr. Because you've given God makan. You restricted him to the musalla, you restricted him to the month. And then we have this hope, and we have this desire that we'll enter into heaven just like this. We have this hope, we have this desire that the Imam will come and he'll extend his hands and be like, where were you all my life, my Shias? You are the ones I was waiting for. You, the one that couldn't pray on time. I love you. You, my sister, you can be from amongst the 50 of the 313. Where have we come? What have we brought ourselves to? How low have we brought ourselves? We don't have that haya in front of Allah. We don't have that haya in front of members of the opposite gender. We don't have haya in the way that we speak. So I'll give you an example, and I'll end it on that example. And that is that, sometimes sisters, that when you go to a sisters only event, for God's sake, don't come home and tell your husbands or your brothers or anyone that, Fulan, she looks so pretty and she wore this clothing and this, that. There is a level of haya that must be observed. There is a level of modesty and hijab that you must preserve. Yes, okay, sometimes, Facebook gets rid of all of that hijab, both social and physical, but aside from that, there's small things like this that make the difference. Like, brothers go to the gym and then you come home and you tell the women folk in your family, oh yeah, you know what, that brother, he can lift, and I tell you what, he's so ripped. You're asking for the creation of shahwa. Even that thought, it's a seed that is placed by shaitan. It's a seed that is implanted by shaitan. It is kindled by shaitan. It is fostered by shaitan. See, it's just small ways in the way that we interact, the way that we speak with members of the opposite gender, what we reveal about our friends to our family members, what we reveal about our friends to other people. There's a potential that we can create these thoughts within the mind of an individual. So Ahlul Akhirah, they have great modesty and they have noble faces. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll look at the rest of them. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives our sins. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Those who are in education, make them successful. Oh Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Destroy the enemies of Tashayyu in whichever form they may come. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst these true mu'tadilin, true awaiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as that you have brought on this night. Please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As always, I'll be around here for another 10, 15, 20 minutes. If anyone has any questions, I know there were some sisters yesterday who wanted to ask some questions, and there were a lot more before that, so they never got the chance to ask. So if you still have a question, I'm around here to answer it. Same again with brothers, inshallah. Salawat.